Welcome to the DriveLife podcast.
Hi everyone and welcome to another episode of the DriveLife by CarEvents.com podcast. Today I'm joined by podcast regular Matt and also another Matt and John from Redline Specialist Cars. Thank you very much for joining.
Thanks for having us.
So usually I would start this podcast by maybe covering off a few things that we've been up to with the Car Club SC UK or other bits that we've got up to in the CarEvents.com world. But I just thought I'd start this one with a bit of a story about how, well, we run now 5 businesses in the automotive world that do various different things. And actually, I somewhat potentially owe a lot of that to Redline, which is you may not be aware of that.
Come on, keep it going. Tell me more.
So yeah, it's quite interesting how it got started. So I'm basically a web designer, web developer in my past life, so to speak, and I was previously specializing in food and drink, which is quite useful when you're like in the York Harrogate area. There's a lot of really good independents. But I knew I was always been a massive petrolhead fan, and I knew that as I saw the rise of the YouTubers and sort of that world evolve into something really big, I knew that I would be really interested in getting a piece of that somehow. But I also knew that I didn't want to do it in a way. I didn't think that I was kind of a presenter, so to speak. I didn't want to go down the route that those guys were going down. So kind of myself and a friend, we were racking our brains as to which angle to go. And just at the time was when DJI, who make all of the most popular drones that we all use, they had just released the Mavic, which was an incredible piece of kit, and it made producing really high quality video for, let's say, amateur level quite straightforward to do. So I decided, right, well, we're going to buy one of them and we're going to see if we can get involved in the car scene by potentially producing or creating videos focused around cars that we love, but not necessarily have the presenter element along with it. So we set out, we bought the drone, we were good to go. And then it was like, right, we actually need someone that's got the cars that we want to give this a go at. And I ended up emailing Redline and spoke to Ed at your end, who agreed to meet us, and we went down. And they agreed to lend us a couple of cars. We came down, we videoed them. The videos are still up on YouTube. We'll put a link in the comments. And that all went fine. But then on the drive home from filming that video, I passed a green Huracan coming the other way. And it was all stickered up with something called Hell Yeah Rally. And a good member of ours, Dave Leadbeater, who I believe has been a customer of yours in the past. He was driving the other way. I didn't know Dave at the time. And I was very curious as to what Hell Yeah Rally was. So I went home, Googled it, realized, it's a driving sort of tours business, and I've never done anything like that before. And also one of the owners, Dave, lives in York, where I was. So
you still got that reg?
Still got that reg now, yeah. Hell yeah. It's a fantastic reg, really.
Yeah, it's good.
But yeah, so I reached out to him, met him, a really nice guy, really amenable. He agreed to let us come on some of the rallies in return for potentially like helping them, because they were quite early on in their business, so helping them with some video media and just generally like producing stuff that attracted more attention to it. But then I went on one of the rallies as a attendee, which actually the rally started at Redline. It was a Lake District one, and everybody, I remember we were all in your car park and they were revving their engines, and I was in my AMG Mercedes that was a diesel, so I didn't rev my engine at all. I stayed quiet at that point.
It's good to focus in on the fact that it was still an AMG diesel, yeah.
Oh yeah, it's
got the AMG in there, didn't it?
Yeah. I think it was probably the only one in the UK, rightly or wrongly. Anyway, yeah, I didn't rev my engine at that point. But anyway, I went on that drive and I was like, this is one of the best things I've ever done, because I don't want to say I was stuck in a rut career-wise, but business-wise, we were like quite good at what we did, but I didn't really have any passion for food or drink. So we just begun at that point through various sort of evolutions of us helping the Hell Yeah Rally, and then I started to run drives locally. Then we got involved with certain car clubs, which ended up evolving to us having our own car club. And from there, we decided there's a gap in the market for a website and app to find car events in general. So we launched that, and everything started from that one meeting at Redline. So firstly, you probably weren't aware because I know you're busy guys, and it was Ed I met directly, but thank you very much for that.
You're very welcome. Is there any shares anywhere that I don't know about? Businesses, yeah.
Like in the small print, SC founded by Redline.
So thank you very much for coming on the podcast, and just wanted to learn a little bit more about Redline, how it started, how it's going, and what the plans are for the future. So how did it start?
It's quite a long story, really, because obviously I'm one of the founders along with Rob, and we were both working for main dealers back in the day, and I was at Ford, he was at Citroën, and a local motor trade legend, could I call him, a chap called David Fox, had a couple of dealerships, but he had this idea to build a dealership and sell sports cars, specialist cars. Well, we were into our cars sort of back then. I mean, you're talking 90s, so basically, we were already driving 205 GTIs, Civic Type Rs, Subaru Imprezas, and I think really that was a golden age for hot hatches, I would say. And he gave us the opportunity to go work there and for me to run that business along with Rob. And I think it was about 1995. Like any young entrepreneurial, ambitious person, you always think, well, we can go do it better, So we managed to find a small forecourt, which was over in Poole in Wharfdale near Otley, a showroom for 6 cars, pitched for 15. I sold my house. He brought us some money off the parents, and off we went. And we started buying cars and selling them in 1998. And that literally was. I've back at work, I've got one of the old Austrator articles with Citroën AXGTs, 309 GTIs, that sort of thing. And it's quite nostalgic, really, because that's sort of where it began.
Is that because you were bored with the mainstream type cars?
Yes.
So this was a passion. This was a hard look. I like the sports cars. I like the supercars.
Yes.
So, okay.
Absolutely.
Nice.
And again, there was no mention of supercars then. It was, they were sort of unattainable, and a supercar back then was probably quite an exclusive, basic Ferrari, whatever it may be. Supercars were a different thing. So we had our 20 odd cars in stock. 50 grand we spent on them, but there were cars that, back then they did break. They had clutches, gearboxes that went, cam belts. So it was quite a sort of hands-on approach to selling cars. One of the first interesting things was the only medium you could have to sell cars was to advertise in the Auto Trader. I don't particularly want to big up the Auto Trader, to be quite frank with you, but they certainly did. And you will remember, anyone who's old enough, you used to go to the shop on a Thursday, get the magazine, and I remember we went for it and we had a full page. Someone used to come down to the Auto Trader and photograph them, on the Tuesday and send the proof through. So
like the Thursday, Friday routine, that wasn't it?
It was Auto Trader Day,
local Gazette, or your local rag, and there'd be all those cars in there that you'd typically know you could afford.
Yeah.
But you always went to the right-hand side and looked at all the ones you couldn't.
Exactly. And the interesting time, of course, back then, and how the job has changed, is that was the Yorkshire Auto Trader. So you only really saw what was in Yorkshire and Humber area. So that was our only route to market. We were at that dealership for about 10 years. Outgrew it instantly because with cars, like even at the motorist, you've never got enough space for cars. So we sort of just coped with that, sold lots of cars, struggling to make a profit because it is a difficult thing to do when you've got to recondition vehicles. But certainly we were selling lots of cars. The profile upped and increased a little bit to the stage where really we thought we need to move. We got the opportunity to buy some land where we are now in Knaresborough in 2006. And that was a big thing to do, a giant commitment, I think it was £500,000 for an acre of land. So then you wander off to the bank and get some designs done. And then we had this vision of building a fantastic dealership, which we managed to do. It took us a couple of years to get there. And part of the journey really is 2008, because we literally finished the dealership around August 2008. Then the world fell apart.
Sure.
And the credit crunch happened. So it's it's, tattooed on every part of my body was the credit crunch, because we'd built a beautiful facility. We were in a little tiny facility. We wanted to move into it, but all the banks then turned their phones off, and all the funders turned their phones off. And it was quite an unusual position, because we'd gone basically from Conference North to the Premiership in footballing terms, and we didn't have any players. So that was a difficult period. So but anyway, we said, look, we've got to move in. We took our 40 cars to this huge site and spread them out a bit.
Yeah.
Got some photographs.
I've seen it. I saw you to the
honestly,
pictures last week.
there's plenty of room to move then. And but what we did is we started selling cars. So even though there was a lot of stress and financial woes at the time, we thought, well, let's just get on and sell cars and see where it goes. So we proved we were very good at selling cars. But to be fair, at the same time, obviously, the internet started to raise its head, and websites got made, and the market became a bit bigger than us. So not only were we obviously Yorkshire and Humber before, we're suddenly selling cars to the whole of the UK, which is a fantastic thing to be able to do. So what happened then? Basically, we were peddling like fury, because the banks didn't go away. We had a big mortgage. There were difficult times, and if I'm honest, it was probably 4 or 5 years of squeaky bum time. It really, really was. But again, we always, I don't know, in all businesses, always reinvest your profits, don't take them out. So you build a stronger foundation. We were able to stock more cars. We started doing a lot more sale and return back then as well, because we had an incredible site, a good opportunity, and we were able to have the room to say to people, come and give us your cars and we'll sell them for you. We're honest Yorkshiremen, trust us with your cars, and so that helped us build the business again. But really, the big break was 2014, which is 10 years ago, because we managed to get properly funded. So we got introduced to Lombard. Lombard were actually only funding the top 100 dealers in the UK. But luckily, I had an intro to one of the guys there, and he lived in Otley and took a liking to us, and we managed to get our first credit line, which was £3 million. So you can imagine going from £500,000 line to 3 million. It was like we'd won the lottery. Suddenly the car's profiles increased very, very rapidly. And my business partner, Rob, I think back then, the odd Gallardo turned up, and what would it be back then? A 360 and bits like that. And we suddenly started up in the profile, still kept with the hot hatches, which we even do now. But realised hopefully there's a bit more margin in some of that. Well, we were right to some degree, but then the reconditioning went up. So that got us going to the next phase. And really, we motored then till the end of 2019. Still very difficult to make a decent profit, but, if you put in enough work, we were doing well. And then obviously March 2020 was a remarkable thing for the world when COVID turned up. So, there's different chapters in this. 14 was important, but actually, as it turns out, March 20 is as important, because I'll never forget, literally lots of businesses did it. I think it was like a Monday or Tuesday, we were all told to close. And I got 2 A4 pieces of paper there. And I went, what's coming in the bank? What's going out of the bank? And then I realised one exceeded the other, and it was the wrong way around. Only the wrong way around because of timings. So we had to deal with that, which is fine because we had lots of assets. So actually, business was in a good, healthy position. But obviously, if your cash stops coming in, it makes you realise that, no one ever foresaw that happening. So that was an interesting time. Phone call to the bank, but all good businesses got support, which they did during that time. But what happened after that will go down in history in the motor trade, because about 6 weeks later we were shut. But what was interesting is we were able to see, even though we couldn't communicate with customers because we weren't at work, people were inquiring. So, you sort of walk away thinking your business is ended or your life's going to fall apart. But, we literally saw 50 inquiries every day, 100 inquiries. Wow. And we're like, well, okay, we know people are at home. they've not got a lot to focus on, and they were focusing on cars. So that was good for our sort of mental health. And obviously looking forward to getting back to work, we knew that we had a lot to go at because you actually couldn't buy a car because no one could sell you one. So automated emailers are going out. We had a chap who looks after our marketing who was emailing the customers. And so we built up a lot of business to come back to. And 6 weeks later when Boris said we can reopen the showroom, but you can't have any customers, we were able to get back on selling. Yeah. But what we saw after that was remarkable. I've never seen, car sales like it, So I was just saying to you earlier, Matt, I think in 2021, we sold over 2,100 cars retail. And we literally sold 500, 600, 700 cars more for 3 years than we'd ever done before. So from a business perspective, that's been fantastic. It's enabled a lot of business to get some wool on the back, to be able to build strong foundations and move forward. So that's a very important part in the motor trade, because for every dealer, and it is hard work, it is a difficult market, and the fluctuations are huge. To have sort of 2 or 3 years of consistency, but not only has gained, customers would buy a car, come back in a year later, and it hadn't depreciated. Well, so I used to say to the customers, hang on, yes, we're gaining, but you're gaining. Normally we're having that conversation about how much money you've lost on a car. So I think both customers and the dealers gained for that period. So it was a nice place to be for both. Everyone enjoyed it. Everyone filled the boots with changing cars all the time, not losing money.
Would you agree it changed how people bought cars?
It certainly sped it up a little bit as well. Like you said before to me, you thought, well, hang on, my car's not depreciating. I've had it 6 months. Temptation is, I'll change it again because I haven't lost anything on this, and I'll buy that. And so it did change people's habits, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned the Auto Trader days early on, obviously with yourself, marketing, you've got so much better access to buyers. Redline are quite prominent, aren't you, in terms of your website, in terms of your social presence, how you're engaging with potential buyers as well. It just feels as though there was a better ability for people to engage remotely. If you think back, I would have shopped around, I'd gone around to every dealership in my local town to find the right type of car. And it was like everyone just switched on at that moment to getting the social presence correct, getting the website presence correct, understanding there was a shop front without needing to have people walking onto your forecourt. And there was confidence from buyers to go, well, actually, I don't need to. I'll just come and send an email in. We'll do a deal over Teams. We'll do a deal over email. We'll do a deal over text.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Even the finance companies then bought into that. And then DocuSign comes out, and then there's no reason for actually sitting in front of a business advisor. And it seemed to happen just like that.
Well, the interesting thing is, prior to it, one of the points there were finance companies were going, oh, we need to do DocuSign. We were still, putting pieces of paper in front of you to sign. Yeah. So it accelerated that from the technology point of view. I think the other massive thing was, and if someone had set out with a goal to run a good business with good customer service, when that happened and you're sat at home and you're remote from us, maybe haven't dealt with us before, how vital was it to have your reviews? And to have good reviews, and to be shown that, you did look after customers, you do respond if there's an issue. And the one thing we did, certainly back in the midst of time, is I always said, well, look, we need to get on this review thing. A lot of motor dealers didn't take that seriously for a few years because they thought we don't have to do that. So one of our big advantages were that when this happened, I don't remember the time, but we had something like 1,200 reviews with 4.9 average out of 5. So when someone who's not dealt with us before is transferring money for something they haven't seen and expecting us to deliver it, we became a trusted source, So I think that helped our bounce in business as well, because people go, hang on, I like the reviews. I can see people did go on a company's house and make sure you do exist and you had the financial backing. But seriously, the reviews, I can't underestimate how valuable they were for people to trust an online car supplier. And that was one of Redline's, and we're still there now. We're still at 2,000 odd reviews at 4.9. It's one of our things where we ask everyone to review us. And, we're not perfect. Cars aren't perfect. Thousands of moving parts. Things do happen, but you're obviously usually judged on how you deal with them. And so back to online, if you'd have had all the right stuff online before, because people can put a business name in, and if there's anything that was there before that was contentious, that would affect, during them times, the selling of vehicles. So that caught a few people out, but played into our advantage, that. But from, as you say, from that presence, you've also got, prior to that, I think everyone had embraced social media as well, so you're able to communicate with that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the timing of March 20, when it happened, it was probably set up for the motor trade to do what it did.
And did you see the buyer types changing? You see different people coming and finding you than what they were previously?
Yeah. I mean, for us, literally, probably over the 3 years, we sold to 1,500 new customers. Well, they're now existing customers. So we got to increase the database. People's habits change because quite often in the past, I've been doing it 30 years, people have come down the forecourt, look at the tyre depths, lift the lid, look at they want a touchy-feely. Well, they couldn't do that. So again, had to be how you communicate. But I think most importantly, they learned, thankfully, to make appointments. Let us know they're coming.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing worse. We have 300 cars in stock and we can't get them all on one site. So we have a couple of sites where we store them. It's courteous, surely, to give us a quick call before you want to come down and say, look, I'm coming to see this. Is it on site? No, but we'll get it there for you. So it did change people's habits to ours and their advantages. So we were able to know people were coming, have the car, have it cleaned, have fuel in it, be expecting them so they have a better experience. Also, if they were travelling, they were able to discuss a deal and discuss the part exchange before they came, because they say, well, hang on, it's a 4-hour drive. So it has changed habits. And I think the customer and the dealer have gained from that. They get everything's online anyway. So, if you want a value for your part exchange, you can ring us and ask, but we all know you've already put it in 3 or 4 different portals anyway. You've got an idea, So there's a bit less negotiation, more talk about the cars, which is what we need to do, isn't it?
Absolutely. So just on that then, what would you say is one of your halo cars you've sourced and sold then, in terms of maybe your experience so far?
There's obviously there's the supercar and hypercar stuff, and then there's other stuff, if I talk that, we had, we bought our first F40 a couple of years ago and sold it to Australia.
Yeah. I remember that.
Wish we hadn't. Wish we'd have just kept it in the barn.
Yeah.
But anyway, there you go. First time we bought a 918 was special. That for me is still the best car I've ever seen and ever driven. Incredible. Unfortunately, we bought that at the wrong time and stayed at it for a year. But now we sold it, and now it's worth about £500,000 more than we sold it for. So again, there's usually some regretting on some of these cars, because we're a business. We can't just put them away and forget about them. I wish we could. One of the best ones was a 288 GTO.
Nice.
Once again, we bought that at the right time. Wish we'd have kept it, but that was special. 288 GTO, I like that. So from the hypercar big stuff, that's that. And I'm surrounded by 300 cars, and Matt will tell we're jumping an R8, we're jumping a Hurricane, but nothing beats someone will turn up in something on 2004 Golf R.
Yeah.
R32, and bang, I'm down the stairs, with the Recaro seats.
Yeah.
One owner done 30,000 miles. I'd kill to buy that car.
Yeah.
So I do hark back to probably where we started from, and I think it was one of the most glorious times, is the 90s hot hatches, and I would rather drive around in one of them today than, it's probably an age thing, I don't know, guys, but they still
thing,
do
isn't
it for me. They make a loud noise. They were 2-wheel drive, a 205 1.9 GTI. There's no better, scarier car to go out and drive. You were surrounded by metal that thin and a lot of noise in it, and went like stink. So certain cars still do that. How it's changing now. If you say, one of the questions you probably say is looking forward, how it's changing now. Last year, the industry had a bit of a downer on the electric scene. We were forced into embracing it a little bit because some of our customers were buying some of the top end cars, the Taycans of the world. And then we got to, I think it was about March last year, and Elon did his thing, knocked 10% off Teslas, and then 2 months later knocked another 10% off. So as a business, we quickly fell out with electric cars because we just saw huge reductions in our stock. We wanted about 15 of them at the time. But you can imagine what customers saw. And then it didn't get any better for customers last year, I don't think, on the electric car side.
I mean, you can look at some of the values of the takens in the used car market and you think, why would you ever want to get involved in trying to sell those used? Because they just...
Yeah. Well, we did, and we blew fortunes. What I would say, and I'll keep my opinion to one side of what I think about the electric car scene, but actually, because of the adjustments in the pricing from last year, people are buying them. You know, people are wonking in, going, you know, that Taycan's 69,995. Some chap paid 130 grand for that last year.
I can imagine it's a bit of an unknown
that.
market to a degree until it's solidified, until it's stabilised. I can imagine you don't know where the value is going to be.
It's sort of getting there. It had such a beating last year that people are buying them now. You know, people are going, well, you know, someone's taken the first part of the depreciation. And I think once, which they will do very quickly, you know, the range anxiety won't become a thing because, let's face it, within 2 or 3 years, there will be a 500-mile range cars out there. Once that goes away, the range anxiety, I think it will be embraced a bit more. But what we found with the electric car market for our business is the only reason people bought them is they were directors of businesses and they put them through the business. Very few people went and bought them personally because they bought them because they wanted an electric car. What they saw, dare I say, is the benefits from a tax point of view.
Harry's Garage did a recent, I don't know if you saw that on YouTube, he's done a recent one just about battery degradation and how that's putting off the personal buy, but actually all of the tax breaks were really for the company.
Yeah, and but they were most
rather than the
customers.
private individual.
Yeah. But going forward, you know, the manufacturers are being forced into selling certain amounts of these cars the next few years, aren't they? So, you know, I don't know how that's going to go. I mean, there are cheaper models coming in with the Chinese makes and various other things. And if I look at a basic electric car of, say, an MG, and it's £300 a month for someone to run from A to B, I sort of get that. I do get that. But certainly there's a long way to go from an infrastructure point of view.
I think the culture thing as well, you know.
The culture, that's probably the problem,
our
isn't
members there's probably quite a few of our members that have electric cars as dailies. You know, that's what they use for the daily run around. But if you want to go out for a blast on a weekend or you want to go on a driving tour, very few will take an electric car. Yeah, I think even if you had the infrastructure there, because you want the atmosphere, you want the smells, you want the sounds, don't you? Which you kind of lose. So I think that culture's a long way off. I think you know, there's still a massive appetite for petrol cars out there.
Well, I think it's a long way off, but I think we're being forced to adopt it a little bit quicker, aren't we? And we're going to be forced to adopt it. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out the next few years. What will it do for our business? We don't know. We'll just be selling a few more electric cars, I would think. But hopefully people will just keep producing what they're producing. But, you know, who'd have thought 20 years ago you'd walk into our showroom and see a Ferrari plugged into the socket? You know, who'd have thought that? I would never have thought that. It doesn't do much for me. I walk past and see that. I'm sorry, but anyway.
No.
Like when we reversed it in here, when we did the show evening here, and we brought the 296 off.
It reverses in an electric
because
silent
it
Ferrari.
stayed fully in electric mode for us. It's like going to press the button. I totally agree. I think I think it will span a few more generations as well. I see a lot of young people. When I was dealing with our classic and collectible cars, a lot of young people really into your more old school hot hatches and stuff like that. And if that's the way they feel now, they're not going to naturally gravitate to electric cars for those weekends out and the road trips and stuff like that. So there's a big generational change to come, I think.
But if people stop making the petrol cars and all the other things, it will be a problem.
Well, your method of transport eventually is going to have to be an electric car, isn't it? Your toy might be a internal combustion engine car, synthetic fuels. What happens with that next? But
you will get the next generation that will have an electric car and want to jump into petrol and go, oh my God, this is what it's like. This is what it was like. You know?
Let's go old school and buy a petrol car.
So I don't know really. I don't know what happens with that. I think we just have to watch it unfold in front of our eyes, don't we? The next few years.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's I think with a lot of the time when there's a big shift in like the type of product, you want to gravitate towards it because it gives you sort of USPs that, or at least it is trying to fix a problem that exists that you don't like about the previous thing. So the example is I go back to is just the noise. So for a lot of people, the electric cars solving making the car quieter isn't a USP for me. It's actually a negative, not a positive. So it's like all right, you've solved probably debatable whether you've solved the environmental issue, to be honest. I think the jury's out on that one. But you're trying to solve a number of things, and if you think we're trying to solve it by making cars quiet, I'm not sure that's what people want. But ultimately, I guess in hopefully decades time, not any sooner, but I do think it will probably become a little bit like horse riding, won't it? Where like the internal combustion engine will be the Sunday car where you probably get heavily taxed, like really expensive.
If you can afford it, you can do it. Yeah.
And hopefully they're still allowed out on the public road, but that remains to be seen. But I mean, I guess for your business, I mean, you mentioned that when you started, sort of the supercar world was quite unattainable, and now probably quite timely with COVID, finance rates were really low during that period. So I assume that you have a really large variety of different types of cars that are going out the door every month.
Yeah. I looked at the sheet today, and I was saying to Matt earlier, there's a Volkswagen camper going out, an RS4, an R8, an S3. There's about 10 cars going out today. We always have, it tends to build up the end of the week, so we do sort of anything between sort of 40 and 50 a week, so there's always even early doors 3 or 4 going out, but at the end of the week it's a good 10 cars, and I think when you looked at our website, as you say, there's a whole host of different things. You can be fooled sometimes by going onto the website and then you see the very expensive few cars and it moves down a little bit.
Yeah, it's very clever how it always defaults to the highest cost. I've noticed that on your website,
That's always helped. I mean, a lot of people, I remember many years ago, some customers used to buy cars of us so they could come in and see the supercars, which is lovely to hear, isn't it? So it's done its job in establishing the business and in getting us to where we need to be. But, supercars, the interesting thing is, the more expensive the car doesn't mean the more profit you make. Believe you me, it can be quite the opposite.
Looking for your next car event, club, or venue? Find it with carevents.com. Discover thousands of upcoming events, car clubs, and car venues on the world's biggest car events platform. Search by location and radius, favorite your events, buy event tickets with these, and follow your favorite clubs and venues to be the first to hear about their upcoming events. For event organizers, you can list events, clubs, and venues free of charge, sell tickets directly in the app, and track the performance of your event. Available online and in your app store. Just search Car Events.
So how are you managing that? You mentioned you obviously do a bit of reconditioning. Yeah. I mean, how is that? You talk about a 918 coming in or whatever, and let's assume there isn't a lot of reconditioning on a car of that value because it's well looked after, but the amount of different car models and vehicles you have coming in, how's that managed? How do you...
Basically, the showroom, the supercars, they still go back to the main dealer for servicing. A lot of them have service plans. Some of the Ferraris have 7-year service plans and that. So they take care of that. Obviously, they get health checks and all that sort of stuff. Below that, we still, with 22, 23 plate cars, we're still respectful of the car. So we don't get our mechanics to lift spanners on them. They will still go to a main dealer, because if you're buying one of them offers, then you still want that. Not that we haven't got a good reputation, but our mechanics there are made to obviously do the health checks, do some routine servicing. We do sell a few older cars, and we can do some of that. But basically, they're more just checking that cars, the provenance is correct and all that sort of stuff. So that's quite easy for us to do, but it can be costly. You can bring a car in, and we all think, oh yeah, it's due a service, and you'll bring it in, and suddenly it's a major, and it's £2,000. Oh my word, see that coming. So we might be good at what we do, but you do get caught with stuff sometimes. Back to what we used to do 25 years ago, cars are more reliable. Intimately more reliable. I mean, basically, the only thing that occasionally catches us all out is the engine management lights and silly sensors and things like that. But they are, aren't they? They're a lot more reliable, which creates a lot less issues with customers complaining if something goes wrong. We try and sell a lot of cars under manufacturer's warranty, so we can go back to the manufacturer if there is a light comes on. But we also sell a really good warranty, which could take care of that. And to back all that up, we've got our own credibility that if someone's got an issue, we sort it. So, but reconditioning, it's not just mechanical. You know, if you come and see a car at our forecourt, you want to see it's got 4 beautiful wheels. You want to see it's been detailed within an inch of its life. So, you know, I remember, 25 years ago, getting the polish out and polishing a car and doing all, you can't have any chips now.
Yeah.
So we've got a massive behind the scenes team who, will literally get all the different compounds and buff, detail, make sure the wheels are nice, get the leather re-cleaned, so the preparation standards are a lot more, but at the same time, it does eat into your margin. But people's expectation levels, that is probably the one big thing that does change. I think 25 years ago, you want to jump in a car and drive it. Now, actually, you're all over it. Make sure, a 4-year-old car looks like new. So the expectations are higher. That does cause an issue sometimes. There is the odd occasion where you have to remind a customer that they're not buying a 24-plate car, it's a 19. And go see some more, and you'll find out ours is still the best, So you do occasionally have that, but on the whole, if you just buy the best stock, supply, and supply it, you don't have too many issues with that.
A great story from yesterday, wasn't it? You mentioned that R8 that went out yesterday. A guy went and had a look at a car elsewhere, came over from Ireland to look at a car elsewhere in the country, was disappointed with it, quickly got on the internet and was scrolling through to find one that matched the spec and was what he wanted. Found one with us, came up the same day, the car was ready to go, did everything with him in the showroom, and he was in till late last night, wasn't he? But was still able to drive off to Ireland on the same day. But
he was going somewhere else, and he just, you've still got to remember, that people do buy with their eyes as well, and it is our duty to, if we're presenting a product to you guys and to customers, that let's make them as nice as we can. Look, now we might not have even had time if you turn up on spot to do it, but you know what, give it a clean, explain to someone what you can do with it. And also, we come down to our forecourt, we've probably got about 130 cars, actually 50 cars on that site, is we can say, well, look, when you do buy it, it will be prepared to the same standard as them over there, and very rarely does, people do it on trust. So I go back to the trust thing and reputation, that people go, okay, I'll have that. See you next Saturday. Better be mint. Nothing like a challenge, right? Get on it, and we very rarely let anyone down. They're all happy, which is good.
I had a good experience with you guys, and recently, a couple of years back, I had one from you. And that, funnily enough, was the same. I brought my Lotus in for a service at Johnny's place. Just around the road from
nice.
him. I thought, while it's in, I'll just have a quick look around your forecourt. That was a bad idea.
Dangerous.
I like that. So yeah.
What Lotus?
So, well, I've had 2. So I had 2 Exegias, an original V6, well, not original, but the V6. And then I moved up to a 410. Yeah. And then I had a bit of a moment and dropped into a Lexus, which was a bit chalk and cheese. But anyway, that side. And then I had the Lexus and I swapped it in for a 911. So it was, you were on my radar. So it was, as soon as I took the Lotus up, I was then having a wander around, and then I was constantly shopping, starting from highest value. No, I think I ended up at page 4. Yeah, but that was where I ended up at. But yeah.
I asked because have you tried the Emira yet? Have you been out in one?
Not tried it. It doesn't float my boat.
Really?
I know you've got a green one in at the minute. I mean, it's a green. So yeah, I've seen it. Yeah. But no, it's just a bit too heavy. Yeah. So that's why I've gone Alpine, because it's a bit.
Oh yeah,
and I know you've had a couple of Alpines.
Oh yeah, we love them. We love them. Yeah.
Quite quirky as well. So quirky interiors, quirky purples and all sorts of stuff.
The thing that lets it down is the sound. Coming back to the electric conversation, is just it's a 1.8 lump in it, so it's down on sound when you compare it to an Emira in terms of the sound that you're getting out of it, but it's very Lotus-esque in terms of how it drives, which is the only reason I've not gone for the Emira, really. Yeah. But lovely thing.
Yeah, I think they're a bit more razor sharp. Having driven both of them back to back, I think the Alpines have got a bit more of a razor edge to them, a bit more tight. Whereas, you're right, the Lotus is a bit heavier, a bit softer around the edges. But have you driven it on track? Have you done the?
Not yet. I've got an invitation to take one out actually on track, so I need to take them out. I'm just waiting for the weather to improve, and then I will. But I'm looking forward to having a going one round track. Yeah, I
should caveat I didn't drive one of ours on track. Just drove somebody else's that we were. But brilliant car on track as well. Really good fun.
Yeah. So what's next then? So you look at, you move from where you were at the original dealership in 2008. I think you said you moved to this place
14.
So are you at capacity now, would you say, in terms of the stock, or have you got
we got
itching?
there a while ago.
Yeah.
What's really interesting, and back to COVID, is so we had a vision to move in 2019, and we found 3 acres of land literally just a few hundred yards from our dealership. We thought, right, let's get everything on one site and let's go do this. It's also a moment in time with you get a little bit older. Do you want to load more debt? Anyway, so we actually agreed a price on the land and went into planning end of 19. But it was Greenbelt, which creates its own necessary problems. So we thought it'd be a while to get that through, a lot of work. But it just hit the skids into COVID. So, got into like March, April, having to speak to town planners on Zoom and things like that. You can never get your point across. And they just went, no to everything because the world was so uncertain at the time. And I think we'd spent about 25,000 quid so far then, on solicitors and architects. And we shelved it and went, look, with COVID now, God knows what's going to happen. The one thing it did do, though, so we thought, disappointed doing that, is it showed that we could still do this level of business where we are. And the reason is the change of habit. So basically, COVID made people make appointments, so we knew people were coming. So even though the cars were off-site, we could bring them to view and take something on-site off. So then actually we thought, well, actually, it still works, and we've reached capacity. We don't need to take that £8 million worth of debt on. And all that would have done is got it all on one site. So it sort of validated what we thought, really. But going forward, we have bought a plot of land in the Cotswolds, which not a lot of people know about. We keep putting little snippets out there.
Off the press.
Yes, yeah. So we bought, it's on an airport. Daft as it seems, I know there's plenty of airports around here, obviously. So it's on, it's Kemble Airport, it's the Cotswolds Airport. And the reason we did down there is we did trial a satellite at a place a little bit like a version of the Motorist down there called Podium, where we had someone go in. And the reason you're doing that from an SEO perspective, and that is you're able to obviously get within a search radius down south. So we piloted that. It was a great success. We have bought a small piece of land. It's not going to be a big dealership. We're literally just, it'll be built probably by October this year. It'll hold sort of 10 cars, but there's room for 30 or 40, but there's a lot of units around it. So it's not going to be a big dealership. It's going to be a satellite dealership. But it's already proven to be, so we're renting a unit there now just to get that business up and going. So when you go on the Redline website, you will see some cars that say Cotswolds on it. Little clue, because they're in the Cotswolds. Haven't really gone to press and told everyone what we're doing, but we do explain it because we've got a man down there. But what we're finding is you're able to look after some customers down there, and we can drive and take cars down. They don't have to come all the way up here.
Reach and cycle stock as well, south and north.
Bit of recycling of stock. So it's a good thing to do, but usually you have to go employ 20 people and spend millions building dealership. Anyway, so we're building this satellite dealership. We've looked at the statistics on some of the on Auto Trader and that, and the views we're getting are off the scale. Dare I say, probably a lot better than what we get in Yorkshire. And obviously, it's a quite a nice financially viable place down the Cotswolds. So yeah, we're gonna expand that, get it up and going. The interesting thing is it's on an airport where the Lancaster Bombers used to be in the World War II, so it's huge.
Interesting.
It had one of the longest runways in Europe.
I'm starting to think that when we do our Cotswolds tour,
we may have found a suitable venue.
So not just the venue. So we're building this little dealership, but there's some amazing stuff going on. Some amazing companies on this huge airport. But what they do have is they have a huge restaurant and a facility like this. Anyway, they've got a 747 parked outside. You can hold events in.
Fantastic.
And they've got the most incredible, views, scenery. And as a location, I think it trumps anything that's out there. So that was also another thing where we could have a satellite, but we can hold events You know, it's only open 5 days a week, so there's 2 days when the whole airport's closed, so we can do private stuff. You know, they've got a second runway, which I think there's a potential we might be able to hire for days. So it breeds into something, you know, that we
gives you lots of options.
Yeah, well, where our showroom is now, the reason that we sort of migrate and do a few things at the Motorist is we haven't got enough space to host people. But even though we're going to have a small satellite dealership down there, there's enough space there to host people. So exactly, you know, we go to a launch event, invite you guys and the clubs, we do stuff, you know, and we're able to do that. So I'm quite excited about that. And I think that's something that we need to look at moving forward, actually, you know, from a location. And it's particularly go down there and come down and have a look with us, and you can see what's there and go, hello.
Keen to visit.
So that's going to be fully functional by the end of the year. So people can visit it, go. Matt, obviously, back to Matt. So part of what we are doing when we're looking forward is we're looking back a little bit. So during COVID, all we did was sell cars. Dare I say, we didn't have time to worry about social media. We didn't have time to do anything else. In which case, our socials got a little bit stale. We still put a few bits up, but they tend to be just pictures of cars, and we treat it with a bit of lip service, really. So Matt came to work for us about a year ago to do some of our classic and collectible stuff, but we realised he's pretty damn good at social media and marketing and stuff like that. So we went, hang on, we've got a different role. So looking back, but then looking forward, Matt's been taking care of our social media for 6 months and some of the marketing we're doing. And all this ties in nicely with moving forward with Cotswolds events and all that sort of stuff. So hopefully, I don't know if your members and you guys might have noticed that our socials have changed the last 6 months to some more interesting stuff. Matt's turned up on it, does a bit of interesting stuff.
It's a bit more, it's more moving image.
More moving.
It's more videos, it's more different angles. He's
doing some blogs, aren't you?
Yeah, and I'm excited about the Cotswolds thing. There's more content that I'll know what to do with, I think. And there is a challenge there with how, and all the stuff that John's talked about, the pace of the business and everything that happens. I think what we want to do is share our enthusiasm more. That's why I in the role separately from anything else, like hijacking that part of the conversation before about Amiras and Exesias, because I just love cars and love talking about them. And we have just always got something to talk about, haven't we? And having someone there able to do it is a really great opportunity. So blogs, we started with the blogs. We're just building our team a little bit to be able to get the right moving imagery, use the platforms in the way that they work best, using reels and short videos on Instagram and TikTok and stuff like that, slightly longer form stuff on Facebook and YouTube. So we're trying some new bits in all of those areas. And I suppose the way to summarize it is there's a lot more to come. And Cotswolds will be a big part of that. Telling that whole story is brilliant. It's like giving content on a plate. You just watch the ground being broken and the dealership being built and the cars getting moved in for the first time, the events that we'll be able to do down there, as well as all the stuff that we already do up here and our relationship with you guys and the Motorists and stuff like that. So some really exciting bits that we'll be able to share more with the public in the future.
We're not, I mean, it's not necessarily been, you know, the business, we sell cars, that's what we do. You know, we reignited social media, not to sell more cars, but we should have done something with it, and we never did. So the most interesting thing is we've got a car enthusiast doing it. So everything he's doing isn't for a commercial basis. One thing me and Rob have said is, look, protect the brand, obviously, but you know what? Just go out and talk about cars, enjoy cars. We're not trying to sell cars on social media. So it takes the pressure off having to do that. You know, he's not stood there going...
Sound like a bad job, that.
Carlsberg
good
jobs.
Job's pretty good.
Jobs.
I'm pretty excited.
By the way,
do you want to do this? Oh, well, I have to think about it for a minute.
Well, last week I realised we had 4 Nissan GTRs, didn't I? And one's a track pack. I said, look, we got 4 GTRs, crack on. Go compare them, go do stuff. You mentioned the Alpine. He did that. He did a blog on it. We had people ringing in with dealerships and I've seen the blog. I want to buy one. So there is a bit of a spin-off because people see and look. But I just think we're blessed to have a car enthusiast looking after our marketing and socials. You know, most companies have to employ people to do that, and they might know about marketing, they might know about markets. Do they know your business? Do they know your customers? Do they know know the product? I don't think a lot of them do. So we've got somebody who knows. It's all about the product, not about the cars. It's not about us. It's not about Redline. You know, I'm not in a rush to get in front of the cameras and make people famous and any of that stuff. It's about the cars, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I think I come from a very different background as well, not a motor trade background, and was a lifelong car enthusiast. So I think I've been through a lot of the things that normal buyers have been through as well.
Tell everyone about your background.
Well, so I was in the military for 15 years, so completely separate from the motor trade. But I think the point being, it was I had an E46 M3, I've had 182 Cup Clios, I've had an F80 M3, an X3M, and I've been through all of the good and bad things I think any of our customers have probably been through as well. I've seen money fall off the top of cars. I've had bad finance. I've bought stuff that's is appreciated when I didn't expect it to. I actually sold the X3M through Redline through those crazy times in COVID, and bought it so well from BMW and sold it well through Redline. So I put all those experiences into what we do rather than just put a trade or a corporate spin on everything. And you're right, it's good fun. I enjoy doing it, and just love cars and driving. So it's a perfect role for me.
Yeah, sounds it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
obviously, you've not been in the role for too long. It was about a year.
Yeah.
What's your favourite car you've had your hands on so far, and what is the dream car, if you could name just
Oh, that's a good question. Dream 3-car garage then. Let's go that.
Oh yeah, so okay, we did a little chat about this. It changes every day, and a customer asked me on the pitch yesterday. Actually, it was like, "What's your favourite car?" And I was like, "If you'd asked me yesterday, I'd probably told you something completely different." So today, I think it's the family car would be a Range Rover. A full size Range Rover. I just think there's no better way to get around. I naturally love Porsche GT cars, so I think a GT3 or GT3 Touring manual would be the weekend run around. And then the third car, I think I'd have a track car of some sort. I'd have a probably proper race car that was just for taking on the track, because I think it's difficult these days, isn't it, to drive cars how you want to on the road, and to have something that you can just go on a track and absolutely wring its neck and not worry about its future value and just test your own driving skills and stuff like that. My wife probably wants something more practical than that, but a track car, totally for me, just for me. So yeah, that's my dream garage, I think, at the moment. Ask me tomorrow and it'll be something different. Yeah. Try something else.
Mine change daily.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
What's your poster car?
Yeah.
So it's interesting because so if I answer the same thing, my today's dream car garage would be a Turbo S. There's nothing.
Does everything, doesn't it?
It does everything. A Range Rover, and it would be something like an X3M to run around in or something like that. But the Turbo S is unflappable. Poster car. I'm showing my age now. There was only one, and I'll tell you how it came around. I used to. My mum had a farm along the A59, so it's farming territory, and we were right next to the road. And when I was a young lad, this car used to come thundering past up the A59 and wake me up. It was that loud. Every other night, like that. And I'm like, what is that? And this is how old I am. It was a Lamborghini Countach in white with a huge fin on the back.
Yeah.
And that was in my bedroom as a poster. The most obscenely incredible car I think I've ever seen that did it for me. I've since been able to, we've owned them since, and I've run out and my icon was there, and then I've jumped in it and went, oh, right, okay. Maybe it was amazing in the 80s and 90s to drive.
They always said don't meet your heroes.
Yes, and
in that case, don't drive your hero.
It was a bit
so they are.
But if I could have one just to look at and stroke and polish, it's still the Lamborghini Countach.
I remember back in, it would have been 2003, 2002, when I was a lot younger than I am now. Again, looking at Auto Trader on the website when it first kind of started, Countachas were in there, 43 grand.
Dear.
I remember to this day, 43 grand a Countach. And at the time I was thinking, that's not even in 2003, 4, that didn't feel like a huge leap. It wasn't like you were talking in the 1980s at 43 grand. It was, and then look where they are now. What are they? 600?
Yes.
Yeah.
700-ish?
Yeah. We had, we also had a purple Diablo 2 or 3 years ago. That was very special. We've had some nice delivery mileage stuff. So again, you talk about regrets of cars you've sold. We had a delivery mileage 22B.
Oh, yeah, I
saw
remember
that.
And a delivery mileage Lancia Delta Integrale special edition. Being a business, we had to sell them. So yeah, we've had some
You do
stuff.
much of the JDM stuff? So I had an R32 GTR.
No,
in the
no.
day,
To be fair, we haven't had them
and
in the
they've gone
past.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's a lot. I mean, going way back, I used to import Japanese cars down at Donington, and it was known that as soon as those types of cars hit the 25-year mark, and they're importable to the US, that's when the value suddenly starts skyrocketing.
Really? Yeah.
So like going back, your Pajeros, your FTOs, R32s, R33s, we'd get on occasion. GTOs are apparently the next big thing I've heard.
Really?
Whether that's right or wrong, the Mitsubishi GTO. But yeah, do you not really get into the JDM market then? Because that's big in its own right, isn't it?
Yeah, it
In
is.
terms of that type of age of car, those mid-90s JDMs.
It's knowing the provenance of it, isn't it? Because at some stage in their 30, 40 years, it's maybe been somewhere it shouldn't have been, or there's a missing file of history on it. And there also is an issue. I go back to customers' expectations, as a retailer with reviews, the internet, and reputation at risk. If you sell someone something that doesn't function properly now, everyone screams and your reputation goes down the bin. So we're a little bit more we're having people, rightly so, track part exchange 997s at the minute for a 991, a 992, a 360 for whatever, and we're incredibly picky about the deals we do because we have to sell that again, sell it to a consumer who's got so many rights, it's unfathomable. So we're trying to keep it a little bit safer for our business. There's plenty of niche dealers that would have a setup like this where a customer could go and they probably would think, well, we won't moan at them if something goes wrong because I'm buying it from in that respect. But they walk through the Redline doors and it all seems to change. So we keep it a little bit safer nowadays. Our pushing the boat out is, as you say, the odd hypercar or the odd, we do have a couple of older cars, but we're trying to keep the majority of what we do under a certain age and provenance,
So you mentioned one of your cars out of the three then, which was your post car. So what are your other two?
Turbo S.
Turbo S.
Always in a Range Rover.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice choice.
Yeah.
What are yours?
Yeah, what are yours, Mark?
AMG Merc, diesel.
The Mustang in there somewhere.
Problem is that we're recording this now, and the next podcast that's actually being released is Sean and I speaking about our car history and our ideal car garage.
I did that on purpose.
So coming to a podcast near you
to be revealed
is very soon, actually. I think early March. So I guess this podcast will be out after those anyway. But yeah, so Sean and I have got a podcast. Like I say, if you're listening now, it'll already be out. But we cover our car history. I cover how many diesel cars are modified to be what they shouldn't be, and then we speak about our dream car garage as well. But we haven't covered yours. So what's your top three?
Oh God,
put you on the spot now.
My top three. So yeah, I mean daily. Daily wise, that's a tough call because actually I'd go with an M car. I think as a daily. Probably a decent M4, M3 daily. Track car, it'd have to be at the minute A110R. I think as a bit of a track car, but I can't really not also throw into the mix a Lotus. So it might have to be two track cars. Maybe I have four car garage. And then if I could, I'd love a Ford GT, but not the latest. The one in between. Was the supercharged one that came out.
2005.
The one that Jeremy Clarkson. 2005 Ford
yeah.
GT. I'd love something like that.
They're doing well, aren't they?
Yeah. So they're another one, aren't they? That's just going through the roof at the minute.
There's a little Ford dealership in my town in Oakham, and he's got one of each. He always has them in the front of the showroom.
Does he?
He's had both of them since new. I don't think the GT's ever been out on the road. The mid noughties one's ever been out on the road, and then he's got a modern one in there as well. So having a small town Ford dealership's obviously it's a good business. Yeah,
there's too much choice. That's the problem. A bit like your website. Too much choice.
It'll be a conversation that in 50 years' time people won't be having. Will
I know, it's a shame.
Yeah.
It'll be I remember when so and so had this. You know.
Yeah.
It's unfortunately it's got a timeline on it.
I always say you have to treat cars like cocktails. Don't stick with one for too long.
Yeah,
you've proven that time and time again. So just going back to what you said about the Ford GT, a little bit of a plug for our upcoming Ultimate Supercar event at Elmington. It's looking very likely, not confirmed, but very likely that we will have Jeremy Clarkson's Ford GT on the runway. Brilliant. So I believe that car's been bought by somebody who's now a member of the Ford GT Enthusiast Club.
Brilliant.
And they had a great presence at the event last year. They had, I think, 2 or 3 GT.
We had the original GT40s there last year.
Yeah, so we had 3 originals. They were one. I believe one was a real original, and 2 were replicas modelled off the original.
And they were caning them down the runway. They weren't holding back. You know, they weren't baby.
What a
them.
noise! That noise is unbelievable.
They weren't the fastest, but they were definitely one of the more enjoyable cars to watch. They were really
and again,
cool.
Smell, sound,
just
like neat petrol coming out
as well. Yes, but the petrol is nice.
Absolutely, so
that'd be good.
Yeah, looking forward to that one, hopefully. That is Sunday, 18th of August.
Coming to that.
So, you'll have to come down.
Oh, yeah, that'd be good
for that.
So just to end, just something I wanted to go back to. Obviously, you've got your rebrand, future marketing, Cotswolds, everything. Sounds like it's going great. Going back to the COVID times, let's see, 2023, the inevitable thing happened where finance went up and the used market went down. How was that for you guys weathering that storm? Because I imagine for a lot of dealers, it's been a tough time after what was such a great period.
It was a big wave.
Yeah.
It was a big wave. It was difficult really because the whole year, if I split the year down, we came into 23 and it was still bullish probably till about March, so we literally did get 3 full years of bounce. Mr. Musk was the first person to set some of the rabbits off when he did his 10%. And I'll not forgive him because we literally just bought 6 electric cars. The week before thinking, right, we better get into this. So really, it wasn't bad timing because, you know, we got our kick in a little bit early. But so March, April, he did that. He did it again, as we say, twice he'd put down 10% on Teslas. So we had to sort of contend with that. And when I look back, I know that cost us £150,000 just like that on what we lost on them cars. And then really, you know, I think the interest rates had probably peaked by about then. So coming into the year, you know, the interest had gone up, the APRs had gone up, but things had stabilised in that respect. So at least we knew where we were. But actually, there was always, I think we're great in this country of talking ourselves into something. So everyone's going, oh, I think the cars are going to go down now. I think there's going to be this, there's going to be that. So, you know, we were all armed with the possibility. What I would say, having been through it, is the benefit of experience. My word, you needed it. The COVID bounce, as good as it was from a financial point of view, made it a lot less stressful. Because surely, you know, any businesses that maybe hadn't had that bounce and had that wool on the back and watched, you know, margins and money erode, it's a different place to be in. But at least we had, and you can't relax on that, but we had the knowledge that we'd done well. So if we have to take a little bit of a beating, we have to take it. But what we quickly did as a business, and I'm not sure everyone did this and were quick enough, is said, look, you know, I think it was probably July, August, we were talking about it, and then it started. And we thought, right, okay, so we had to deal with it this way because we got a lot more cars than most people. So what you do is literally monitor the cars. I mean, I spent 2 or 3 days a week, went cross-eyed, literally watching every car on various portals and what was happening. The exercise was incredible because after coming to this year, the car knowledge I'd gained from that was phenomenal because I literally did that for 2 or 3 days a week, every week, what was more concerning is I go, crikey me, I've only just reduced that car last week and it's gone down and I get another £2,000. There's certain cars that stick out, certain brands that stick out. One of the killers, obviously, was Range Rover. You know, we haven't touched Land Rover this year, but
theft element as well.
you know, their brand had the biggest hammering of anything last year, and deservedly so. You know, they built the best car, but you know, the theft thing just. Yeah. So actually, that was another big thing because we happened to have only a few of them, but my word, they took it. They took some depreciation. So back to how we cope with it, how I cope. That's what I'll be responsible for this, for the cars, and literally I spent 4 months studying cars, every car we had, and what we did is I literally went, you know, if you've had a car in stock a couple of months. And you wanted to get it away, you'd look at what you could buy that car for today, and you went, "Oh my word, best we sell it." You know, so quite often a lot of people came in, the salesman came in and said, "Look, I can get the money back on that." I said, "Take it. It's worth less than we could buy it. We could buy anyone for today." So we got rid of most of the stock. What is quite an interesting fact, and a little bit of a nerdy fact, is that literally I knew that was going to finish in the December. The good thing was it was the end of the year. New year, people could write off last year. So 2nd of January, it went mental. When I look back, we still had 30% of them cars left. But, you know, my word, we had a good go at getting 70. So we had 70% of the stock right coming into this year. Not many dealers would have had that. You know, they'll have still been licking the wounds and watching, trying to get money back. Yeah. We now, as of 2 months later, we literally have 99.9% clear stock. Sold every car that we had at the time. Yeah. So as I look today, and I only did the exercise the other day, you know, the stock's got decent margin in it at last, so we can make a profit again. We can get on and look forward. It was a moment in time. It was tough. It was tough, you know, but had we not had the COVID bounce, it would have been brutal because it'd have messed, it'd have messed with your head. But we're always going, well, look, you know, if we have to lose some money, we have to lose it. At the same time, of course, we're still trying to do business with customers who, this is an interesting point, is we had a lot of customers, we got a lot of repeat business. And the amount of times I had and the salesman had a chat with a customer saying, do you remember how good the last 3 years were? That's finished. Yeah. You know, so there's a fair bit of re-education actually. And you've mentioned it to me, Matt, you know, fair bit of re-education where the customer wandered back in and, as I say, had half a dozen cars over the last 3 years, hadn't, apart from monthly payments, hadn't sort of blown anything on the cars, and suddenly we were going, hang on, you know, that's gone down £10,000 the last 6 months, and sorry. Well, look, the market's there for everyone to see. Because the market was there for everyone to see, they were a bit more educated, so it wasn't a shock to customers. But that's hopefully more or less come to an end now, having to have that conversation. Most of them took a bloody nose, and I said, well, look, hang on, we had 300 of them. You know, we've all been through it, and I think we're sort of through that now. So, but going forward, the other side of it is to say to customers, look, it's a moment in time. I think that we're actually going to have 3 good years in the motor trade. So I'm not saying cars won't depreciate anymore, but I think that the bounce back, the used car bounce back is going to be massive. It already is. So that, as it seems, I think values are going to harden again. And I'm not saying that they'll go up, but I think they'll be quite consistent the next 2 or 3 years.
Definitely.
So it was just a moment in time that was just horrific. Thanks for asking.
This is now a therapy session.
I'm over it now.
We finished it on a positive.
Yeah.
Well,
on a positive, just keep Matt's contact details because once you see the Evo car of the year and see the A110R is only second to the GT3 RS, which is a beast of a car in itself. I'm confident you've got a willing customer right here. Anyway, thank you very much for coming on. Really appreciate it.
It's been brilliant. Thanks, guys. Really enjoyed it.
Thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Looking for your next car event, club, or venue? Find it with carevents.com. Discover thousands of upcoming events, car clubs, and car venues on the world's biggest car events platform. Search by location and radius, favorite your events, buy event tickets with these, and follow your favorite clubs and venues to be the first to hear about their upcoming events. For event organizers, you can list events, clubs, and venues free of charge, sell tickets directly in the app, and track the performance of your event. Available online and in your app store. Just search Car Events.